we're ready to go and I will start.
We're ready.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I honestly can't remember. But Komori might. I think this is session 11. Komori, does that sound right?
That is right.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. It's truly hard to believe that we're at session 11. We have decided that this will be the last of the coffee call and chat sessions. I think what we're going to do is take a break. We're going to reassess whether these sessions are really valuable to our clients and colleagues. And if they are, maybe we reinstate them, maybe monthly, maybe bi-weekly, maybe quarterly, whatever. But I think we're gonna take a break after today and sort of digest sort of where we're at and where I think we can go, and we're going to ask all of you for some feedback. So with that, I'm going to get underway. Again, everyone, I think many of you, I see some familiar faces and names. So I think everyone knows the drill. I'll give a quick introduction and then we'll dive into the content. So today's session is around stress management. I think it's a timely topic given what is going on in our country, with the coronavirus still relevant. I did see some indications, I think in Oregon, Texas, and Arizona, they actually had a not insignificant spike in coronavirus people who had it. Second, obviously the economy has just rocked the country, and then thirdly, I think this incident of the police officer in Minneapolis killing this young man and the ensuing riots, that's a lot. It's a lot for our country to digest at this time. It is. And I think, one of those would be enough to cause people some stress. I think all three of those things have had a pretty big impact. So again, I think I've said it, this is year 24 for me of running my own company, which I'm proud of. The focus of Boxer Advisors is to bring high-end consulting, coaching, training solutions to meet our client needs. The three things that we do, quite simply, are to help our clients build leadership capabilities, help them drive organizational change, help them to more effectively engage and retain top talent. So that's what we do. For those people who logged in today, I think it's best if you can. So I know on my screen I have a scroll bar. I could, if everyone can mute themselves. I am gonna a couple of times be asking you all some questions. I'm more than okay, as long as we finish at 10 a.m. For you guys to ask me questions. So that's okay. I would say but three things before we put the car in drive and talk about stress. We're gonna send you an email as a follow-up to this session. In that email, I believe that we will provide you with a link to the recording if you want to pass this along to someone else. And if you want a copy of the slides, just ask me. I think most of you should know. If you don't, one of our colleagues, Jenny, has put all of the recordings. So we've done sessions on working remotely and leading during times of change and leveraging Zoom and managing your time, improving employee morale, leveraging the Google suite of products, a whole host of things. And there are 10 of them, now 11 with today's session. And you can access them on a little YouTube station that we put together. So you can take a look at those. And then we're going to send you a second email. Again, we're trying our best to sort of take a deep breath, try to practice what we preach on stress management, and try to take stock of these sessions and what's working, what's not, and where we go from here. And so for those people who are on the call today and others, if you can take a few minutes and provide us with your feedback, that would be great. So let's dive in. So when we take a look at stress, it can be, I think, an overwhelming factor in both our personal and professional lives. And we need to know how to manage stress, how to recognize stress can not only boost your productivity, but I think can enhance your life. And I would assume for many of us during the coronavirus pandemic, the lines of our personal and professional lives have blurred during these times. Is that fair to say? If that's fair to say, give me a quick thumbs up on your reaction. I think for many of us, I know for me that's the case. I would imagine Komori, who's on this, and I believe I saw Shauna, two of our team members. I assume they would say for sure that's the case. And so I think we just need to take a look at, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what are some signs and symptoms of stress? What are some factors that cause stress in our lives? How can we do a better job at diagnosing stress? And then I'm going to do my best to give you some specific strategies. And I suspect, knowing some of the people on the call today, you guys might have some other ideas. And again, if you have questions, just chime in. I'm good with that. So I think stress, I don't know if this is the Webster's dictionary, but it is, I think, a working definition of stress that says it's a psychological and physiological response to environmental factors, causing people to adjust their behavior. That ultimately what you're trying to find is that steady state. And so let me ask a question, and you guys can respond. What are some physiological signs? For you when you're stressful? How do you know that you're experiencing stress in either your personal or professional lives? I know for me, I rush, and I was running to take a shower. I had started my workday at 6:30 a.m. this morning, but I needed to jump in the shower so I could be with all of you. And when I jumped in the shower this morning, I almost pulled down the curtain rod just because I slipped. And I said to my wife, I'm just going too fast and I have to slow down. That I know when I'm under stress, as Komori and Shauna know, I can go pretty fast, but sometimes faster is not always better. And I know for me, when I'm experiencing stress, sometimes I can feel it in the back of my neck, the hairs in the back of my neck. Those are some signs. So what are some signs for you all physiologically that give you some indications that you're experiencing stress?
One of the things that is a cue for me is I look at my hands with open palms,
Yes.
and my fingers are twitching.
Yep.
And then I know there's something wrong, but it's probably accompanied by something else.
Yeah.
But that one is real obvious to me.
Yep. So Matthew said his heart rate goes up and he becomes grumpy. Honestly, I think Komori and Shauna have experienced it with me, that when I am, we're trying to, get a client deliverable out the door or a proposal out the door. Sometimes I don't like it, but sometimes I can be short with people. I can be, and I have to, again, one of the sessions that one of our colleagues did, Dory Kellner, did a session on mindfulness. And so I think when we experience stress, I'm going to talk about this later, we just have to be aware of it and then take some strategies that help us in a healthy way deal with it. So Carol said unhealthy eating. I would imagine for all of us, again, whether it's sweaty palms or your heart rate goes up, or you are agitated with others, or you don't listen, or your speech pattern gets more heated. Again, Elizabeth said she feels stress in her body, especially in her back and her neck. I would imagine for all of us, there are signs, and I would say sometimes the physiologic signals sometimes pop up before we're aware of the blank hitting the fan. I think that's true. And so I know for me, I stopped watching, I'll go there. It's okay. You can hang up. But I literally stopped watching the presidential press conferences during the coronavirus pandemic. And if that offends people, I apologize. But literally, I was screaming and yelling and cursing at the television. It just wasn't healthy for me. So I just stopped. Do I hope that we get through this pandemic without losing more lives? You bet I do. But it was making me stressful, and it wasn't healthy. And so I just had to monitor. It wasn't good for me, wasn't good for my marriage. And so I just had to stop. It just wasn't a good thing. So let's take a look at, if we can, what are some factoids about stress. So the dysfunctional consequences of stress are significant. I know Zabe is on the phone. I bet you that he has some of these statistics. I bet he does. Just because, again, he's in the financial services industry. And I would imagine, again, when the stock market was tanking, he could see people maybe not doing the smartest things with their money, or freaking out about, their retirement accounts, or not knowing what to do. The statistics, again, whether it's off a little bit, I tend to agree, is that the cost to government business industry is over 300 billion. And we think that, again, 18 to 25 billion or more is caused by managers and supervisors absent due to hospitalization, premature death. So there are lots of people, frankly, who are on extended leave, are in the hospital, unfortunately die, take personal days off, all due to stress, And so it's not something that affects a few people. It affects many people, and has a significant impact. So some of the signs and symptoms of stress are: we feel anxious and irritable. We may feel depressed. Maybe we feel apathetic or a loss of interest in work. Sometimes we have problems sleeping, fatigue, trouble concentrating. Anyone experience any of those? You don't have to answer. But I think those are some of the signs that everything may not be right in River City. Those are some of the signs. I think the causes, what causes stress in the workplace are high workloads or unrealistic deadlines. Again, Kamori and Shauna will say, we have a Friday stand-up meeting, and almost every one of them, Kamori, you can back me up, but almost every one of them, I say, I am grateful, that we have a very healthy book of business, and that, I've not had to lay anyone off, no one. That, we've got a lot of work to do. That's the good news. The bad news is we have a lot of work to do, and, we don't have thousands of people to do them. And so I think some is, could be insufficient workloads, and people may start feeling like their skills are underused. That could happen. Or people could feel, I think this is a big one. I think if people feel like there's a lack of control over their work activities, I think that can cause them stress. I think most adults like to have some control over their work. And so if they're not able to manage their schedule, if they're not able to manage, the output of what they're doing, if they're not able to, again, during the coronavirus, everyone's working remotely. And so, getting a hold of people can be, a challenge. It can be. So I think all those things can cause us stress in the workplace. This is a nice slide. You like this one, Kamori? I don't like it. Anyway, I think the essence of this slide is that there are environmental factors, organizational factors, individual factors that cause us stress in our work and our life. I'll just leave it at that. It's too busy a slide. Sorry, don't hate me. So I'm going to ask you another question. Are there other causes that I didn't list that you think are contributing to stress in the workplace now? Are there other causes of stress in the workplace now that I haven't mentioned? I agree, Zabe. It causes me stress. I should have taken it out. I'm with you. I'm with you. It's just too much, too much. Too much. Sometimes I try to eat my own dog food, but sometimes less is more, and that would have been a good slide to take out. So one of the things that's not listed there, I think Kathy said it. I agree 1,000%. So one of my friends said this the other day. You like that, eating my own dog food? Sometimes I say this all the time, Matthew, that I have been doing this a long time, and I believe that it's much easier to sell leadership training than it is to teach leadership training. And it's a whole lot easier to teach leadership training than it is to be a leader. It's hard. It's hard work. And so one of my friends said this to me the other day. He said, the decisions when we were all in quarantine, I think were easier. I think it's going to be harder, more complex, more stress-inducing as they start lifting the restrictions and allowing people to go back to work. I think people are going to be questioning, what sort of risk tolerance do I have? I think people are going to be dealing with people who are wearing masks and not wearing masks. I think inevitably, I believe, I could be wrong, that we're going to see some spikes in COVID-19 detections when people go back to work. I think people have maybe gotten used to working from home and don't really want to go back to the office. I spoke to my brother last night who works for a big technology company. And frankly, I said, when do you think you're going back? He says, hopefully never, hopefully never. I think there are a number of people who feel that way. And so those things are going to cause more than less stress on us. I assume everyone says amen to that. Yes? So, Kamori, am I missing something? Does anyone have a question, or keep rolling? So some factors that cause stress are bad supervisors. Again, all the data that we have is people don't leave jobs, they leave bad supervisors. So supervisors that are either insecure or micromanage or lack any people skills or untrustworthy, those are bad things. Confronting problem employees can cause stress. This afternoon, we're having our last session. So over the years, I have delivered many performance management training sessions. We were under contract to deliver another one for our client. It was supposed to be a 2-day workshop, and they've broken it into 6 2-hour sessions. So the last one is this afternoon starting at 1 o'clock. And so I think it does cause stress for managers, leaders, when they have to confront problem employees. Finding firing a problem employee can be stressful for leaders. Making mistakes, again, Komori, for the first time, Komori, you can kick me if I shouldn't say this, but for the first time yesterday, she took one of our basic proposals and edited it. And frankly, she was nervous about it. I just said, look, I don't expect you to do it perfectly the first time. All I want you to do is A, do your best, B, learn from the experience, and C, be better next time. Komori, did I say that to you or no?
You did.
And she did great, by the way. And I think sometimes it can cause stress in the workplace when we try to do too much. I think that's possible. So I would ask everyone, again, you know, we're going to try to end this in 10 minutes. So we'll give you the slides. I would, again, I'm not going to ask anyone to say yes, but I would ask everyone to say, do any of these or some of these sound too familiar? Are you becoming tired during the workday? Are people telling you that you don't look good or you look, you know, haggard? Are you working harder but accomplishing less? Are you becoming more enchanted with your situation? Are you being forgetful about your old or new duties? Are you feeling more agitated? Those are maybe some signals that that you know, maybe there's a problem. I do think Susan said it. I do think for all of us, I think you have to look at the impact of some of these changes on introverts and extroverts. I know that we've been having, I would say, semi-regular Zoom meetings with my family. And my sister sent me an email a few days ago. She says, I'm Zoomed out. and I know my wife was. And so, you know, you have to, again, I think Zoom has been helpful. And at the same time, some people in the evenings just want to watch a mindless TV show. So I think part of what we can do to deal with stress is to do a good job about diagnosing what's going on. I think you can't solve the problem or the challenge of whatever's causing you stress if you don't accurately diagnose it. So I think for all of us, A, we have to pay attention to the physiological issues. We've got to describe the situation that caused us stress. We have to be mindful of the symptoms. We need to be thoughtful about what caused us stress. And maybe, you know, we can talk to one another. You can talk to a mentor. You can talk to a religious leader, but keeping it inside is probably not the right strategy. It's probably not the right strategy. Just being mindful of it, I think, is helpful. So in the time remaining, what I want to do is two things. One, I want to give you some specific suggestions of tools I think you can use in dealing with stress. And then we'll wrap things up before 10. And then if people want to hang on the call a little bit to answer any questions that I haven't had a chance to answer or talk about this for a few minutes, I'm happy to do it. Before I move along, any questions or are we good? Have a plan and review when you feel stressed out. I agree. I couldn't agree more. And what I would say, Zabe, is I think you have to have a plan, but you got to have a plan B. That, you know, again, when this coronavirus thing happened, you know, I have been working with a coach since that time, just because I recognized that we've never experienced anything, well, not in my lifetime, we've never experienced in something like this. And so, you know, I think you have to have a plan. You need to have a backup plan. You have to understand that life doesn't always go according to plan A. So when we think about techniques for dealing with stress, I think you need to think about ways that you can ease stress. So I think you can take a look at some coping strategies. And one of them is to be aware of the fight or flight mechanism that we all have. We all have it. And so just be mindful that at some point, sometimes with stress, you need to tackle it head on and assertively state, you know, your challenge with someone else, or tell someone I'm experiencing stress, or do the proverbial thing that we say to our kids, take a time out. And you can walk around the block, you can go for a bike ride, you can go get a cup of coffee, but sometimes walking away is the right idea. So one strategy we have to deal with this is be aware of the fight or flight syndrome. This is a list of some specific strategies that some of our clients have initiated. Being aware that stress is with you all the time. You can go to yoga, you can do Pilates, you can exercise, you can listen to music, you can read a book, you can talk to a friend, you can have a healthy meal. Are there some things that you do? Are there some things that you do? Are there some things that you do that have helped you deal with stress during the coronavirus pandemic? Or you've seen other people do? So Carlene says, talking to someone. Again, everyone's different. I know many of you, I'm a, pretty significant extrovert. So I don't keep a whole lot of things inside. And so I do talk to some of my best friends or family or my coach or colleagues. Connect with non-work enjoyable activities is a great idea. Call friends on a regular basis. I know Carol has participated in one of my virtual cocktail parties during the coronavirus pandemic, which was fun and interesting.
And Ken, it's Susan.
Yeah. Hey, Susan.
How are you? I think it's really helpful to teach our clients how to deepen their awareness. And one of the things they can do, I do this in every session, is just say, what are you noticing about yourself?
Yes. Yeah.
Because without the awareness, there's not a change going to be made.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Susan. I think it's almost impossible to reduce the stress in our lives if we don't do a good job at diagnosing it. And I think it can be, a simple question about what are you noticing? And again, for me, I noticed it this morning. I was running around like a madman. And again, I almost fell down in the shower. And I said to my wife, I gotta slow down. Sometimes, you need to go slow in order to go fast. That's just the reality. So I think just breathing and just asking yourself that question can be a powerful way. Talking to your priest is a great idea.
Ken, I always tell clients, like I said earlier, take inventory of where you are with your personal life, with professional life. If you're not where you want to be or you're kind of off track, take a look at the plan and say, okay, what am I trying to accomplish? And then what derailed or what went sideways? Obviously, with the pandemic and working from home, and then watching the news the last couple of weeks, you probably are very stressed. But really look at what affects your life and what doesn't. Are you allowing external factors to affect your life that really shouldn't? And like you said, and like Susan said, having some awareness, taking some personal time, even a breathing exercise or some yoga can really help alleviate a lot of that tension and stress you're having.
Yeah. Again, I know for me, I think being with my people is helpful. So again, Zabe, you weren't it, but our book club is a sanctuary for me. It is, it's with other smart, right people. And again, as an extrovert, I get energy from being around other people. Doing these sessions, frankly, has been, I'm proud of us that we did it, that we've done these, but these have been good for me too. Just the process of every week thinking about some of these topics. Again, I don't know about all of you. I know Susan and Carol are colleagues of mine, but I can speak for myself. Every session, I think about how can I apply the session. So last week's session was on building team morale, and I did think about what's working, what's not with our team, and what am I doing that could be contributing to a dip in morale or causing Kamora or Shauna to be crazy. And so I think it's a good thing. So I'm going to do, it's 10 o'clock. Kamori, there you go. You're way ahead of me. So I would say I'm willing for if people want to stick around, I'm willing to stay on for a few minutes. I would say three things. One, I would ask everyone to think about what's one thing that you learned or confirmed from today's session. I'm not, I know, again, Susan, Carol, Zabe, Kathy, others, this is not a news flash, but maybe it confirms something for you. And what's one action that you can take maybe today, maybe before the end of the week to help you better deal with stress? Second, I encourage all of you to respond to, we're gonna send you 2 emails. One, a follow-up to this session, and then we are gonna send you a bigger, it won't be many, but another survey that we're gonna send out, trying to take stock of these coffee sessions and try to give us some thoughts about where do we go from here? Do we stop them? Do we continue them in some form? Should we reshape them? Don't know. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to say thank you to all of you for signing in today and taking 30 minutes of your life to be with me and talk about ways to reducing stress. And thanks for participating, on the session. So I'm willing to stick around if anyone wants for 5 minutes. And Kamori, thank you for, and Shauna, thank you for doing the slides. You did an unbelievable job. Kamori, thanks for being the producer extraordinaire and keeping me on track. Really, really helpful. So if anyone wants to stay on for a few minutes and chat, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop sharing. And if anyone has any questions or wants to share a strategy, I'm more than willing to stick around. So Matthew Carden, tell us give me 30 seconds about how those Great Danes help keep you sane. Can't hear you, buddy. So I'll just say, Matthew has a property in Tennessee that he's built, and he's got, I think, 2 Great Danes. Is that right? But they've built this property in Tennessee, and the plan is he's going to go live there, and it's going to be a rescue place for Great Danes. How cool is that?
That's very cool.
So I've told him he's got to show me pictures of the property. Anyway, if anyone else has any questions or comments about either A, how to effectively diagnose stress, or B, how to deal with stress, or a question for me, I'm all ears.
Ken, I always find people, if you got a long list of things that do, you get a little overwhelmed, get a little stressed out. So I always do the eat the frog first, right? Find the hardest thing you gotta get done that day and get it done first. And it's that sense of accomplishment that I've done it, it's over, my day is done, and now I can move forward. And when you did that day, it really can be rewarding and less stressful.
I agree, Zabe. I think, again, I was talking to my brother last night. He says, they've got more work to do in this technology company. And so all of us have to sort of take a deep breath and, that 80-20 rule, 80% of our results are going to come from 20% of our efforts. So
That's
just
right.
be mindful of that. So,
And
Yep.
I was going to mention too, I think one of the things that's really different now is I'm one of the lead people responsible for bringing 115 people back to work.
right.
So it's different in not only managing my own stress, but hearing the stress. Every person's got a different situation, and
Yes.
figuring out how do you balance that with needing to get the work done. And so
Right.
part of it is helping them manage their own stress, but it doesn't matter what decision we'll make. It's going to be a difficult one for somebody. So
That's right.
a new lens to look through, I'll say.
That's right. So I would imagine, Kathy, I would imagine 3 things. One, if you assume that everyone's going to have the same reaction to coming back, you're crazy. You're crazy. That's not the case. That's not the case. B, I think it's important for you not to take on their stress. That's important. And I think then the third thing is you got to take it sort of one person at a time and be mindful. I imagine there's some people who are scared out of their minds to come back to work, and you know, they don't want to die, and you know, the rules of engagement are not so clear, and it is, I think it's going to be as hard as it has been for our country, and it has been hard dealing with this coronavirus pandemic and being quarantined. I think it's going to be harder managing the return to work. That's my prediction. I think harder on individuals, I believe, just because the rules are not so obvious. And
Right.
Yeah.
And the fear that you have, I mean, you're not, we
Right.
at least are typically dealing with people's fears, and that's a whole
Absolutely.
different.
Absolutely. And again, my wife was off of work. She works at a small boutique here in Virginia Beach. And her son said she could not visit him and their two children if she went back to work. So she didn't. She went up there, not this weekend, but the weekend before, and she went back to work this Monday. And I told her, you cannot go back to work if they don't have that plexiglass shield at checkout and or a sign that you have to wear a mask. You can't do it. You can't get me sick. I don't want to die. And you can't do it yourself. And so I said, you should tell your boss, if she does those two things, okay. If not, you're not going in. Too bad. And I think all of us need to have, again, that word we talked about, boundaries. Boundaries. That's okay. Matthew, you were going to say something, I think.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, my
All
friend.
right. Technology. Kim, just recently this week, I've come across I'm going to call it a new stressor for supervisors that we haven't dealt with, or I think that we're woefully unprepared for. And that is with the protests that are going around now.
I agree.
And really rip the scab off again with race.
I
We have, with the increased diversity of teams, so I'll just give you an example of my team. I've got 3 African-American women who I'm sure have examples of when injustice has happened to them. I also have, I would say, a Trumper on the team, and I have a gay man. Normally, there are conversations that we don't have, like you stay away from religion and politics, right, at work.
Mm-hmm.
Now those are coming in, and those are the type of things that are stressing the team out, and they want to talk about them.
Yep.
And supervisors, we're unprepared for that conversation because we're afraid, I don't know what I can and cannot say.
Yes.
Or listen, obviously you look at me, I'm an old white guy. Just the presentation itself causes a hindrance to an actual conversation. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to throw that out to the.
Anyway, I have a strong opinion on that topic. I know that's a shock for many of you, but does anyone else? I have to believe that you're living under a rock if you're not aware of the significant impact that issue is having in our country. Does anyone else have a perspective? I tend to think the easy answer is, of course, Matthew's right, that it is a stressor. And I think many leaders are, I don't know what to do other than run the other way, and I want to deal with it. But does anyone else have a perspective?
We've been, I think you're absolutely right about that. And I think I've actually had a couple of staff say they were glad we're not in the office right now because they wouldn't be sure how to have those conversations. And
Yep.
One of the things that's, I think, been helpful, we'll see, it just came out, but one of our offices in Washington sent out some resources actually from the Smithsonian about different ways to talk about race, either within your families or with coworkers. And so we're trying to take the approach of providing people with a lot of tools that they can use, as opposed to
Yeah.
Not as opposed to, we want to make a space for the conversations to happen, but we're not going to direct how that happens for them, but give
Yeah.
them the tools to see what might work for their own teams. And we'll see how that works. I don't know if that will be enough or not, but that's where we're starting.
Yeah, might be a good coffee session to do it. Kathy, if you can send those to me, that would, if you can,
Sure.
I would, yep. So Matthew, I think, you know, again, I have talked to some of my team about this issue. I didn't wait for, well, two things. One, I brought it up with both our team members. I thought it was interesting to me. I'm just being honest. We were scheduled to do this session on stress management before the incident happened in Minneapolis and before all the racial riots. I'm just being honest. I was talking to one of my colleagues yesterday about this, and we've experienced some change internally at Boxer Advisors. One of the women who's worked for me 15 years, Michelle, Kathy, you may have dealt with Michelle at some point. I know Matthew, you know Michelle. So Michelle literally has worked for me 15 years. She got a dog literally the year she started working for me, and they had to put the dog down 2 weeks ago, and it clobbered the crap out of her.
Wow.
Just completely obliterated her. And so she told me I just can't work now. And so of course I said, hey, take whatever time you need, no rush. But Michelle, again, 15 years experience, you can't recreate that. And then another one of our team members tendered her resignation last week. So we've had to sort of scramble. We're a small company. And so frankly, we didn't do a lot to promote this session. This is true. And so I talked with Shauna, who's not on the call. It's really too bad. She's a white woman married to a black man. And I said to her, do you think that we should promote this session on stress or just let it go? And she said to me, and I hadn't thought about it, she says, well, with everything going on in our country, you bet we should do it. And she wrote the email that we sent out to our clients yesterday. I didn't write it. She wrote it. And I'm not, you know, maybe that's an indication of I'm an idiot, but I didn't think about it that, of course, Matthew is right that issue, again, just a peek at the news. I think many cities around the country, people are protesting and voicing their concerns, and it's a humongous issue, humongous issue. And again, you know, you have the president, I'll say, doing things that aren't helping us. You know, they're dividing us, and you know, what he's directing the police to do and not do is frightening to me, and I would imagine would be frightening to the protesters. And so all of that is a big issue. It's a huge issue. And again, I'm not going to say I have the answers, but I would say, Matthew, to every leader, if you don't deal with the issue, it's going to be festering with people. They are going to be thinking about this. That's just the reality. And so I don't think every leader has to solve the issue. I think you have to be aware that it exists and maybe just listen to your people. If anyone else has a suggestion, you know, of what can you do to help leaders deal with this new stressor, I'm interested to hear them.
I can.
Yeah.
It's Kamori. Sorry, I'm trying to talk in between when my son's not hollering. But most of you guys can't see me. My camera is not connected yet to the computer. But I am, some of you have seen me, I am a Black woman, and I have a biracial son. My husband is white, and we talked about this situation a couple nights ago. And so to your point, Matthew, I think a really good idea is, frankly, white people have a lot of power and a lot of like your voice can be used here. I know it's frightening to use it. I know it's scary to use it in your workplace. because some people may not align with your speaking out about it. But the fact that I have never seen this many white people come together after George Floyd's murder, and repost things on their social media accounts and just speak out about it. And that to me, because I was pretty upset and frustrated, and I didn't plan on speaking out about it because I was angry that it just keeps happening. And I have a son, and I don't need a news broadcast to get me like fresh into what's happening in the world. I think about it every other day because I am raising a small little one right now. But I think what is the biggest help is that the white people and the people are in positions of leadership in their organizations. If you guys speak out, if you guys create a dynamic in your workplaces that show your other African-American employees and your team members that you're not going to stand for it in your companies, it creates a standard within your company, and the Black people feel safe and they want to come to you in the event of anything, happening or uncomfortable happening with them. They feel protected. And so I think that's the biggest point now to do, is to stand together always, but especially today and in the climate that we have right now.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kamori.
Yeah.
Anyway, I couldn't have said it better. Couldn't have said it better. I think it is incumbent on all of us. There's an article, anyway, I'll go there. I think it is an article in The Atlantic. It was written on a different topic, but frankly, I think it's relevant for this. It was, hold on one second. I think it said something about being complicit.
Yeah.
And I do think, I think this is one of those things that if you're not on the side of addressing the injustice, then you are part of the problem. I think that's the case. I believe that. And I think there are many examples that we can look in history where stuff was going on and people didn't speak out, and bad stuff happened. Again, as a Jew, there are, things when Hitler came to power, people didn't speak up, and 6 million Jews were killed. And so I know it makes frankly makes my wife uncomfortable, who is an Israeli, and many Israelis really like the president, and I, and I think if we don't speak out about some of these injustices, I don't think change will happen. I don't, and that's a bad thing for our country, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I think as leaders, we have to be influencers for the good.
Yeah, that's right. But I think coming back to what you said, Matthew, I think it's important for leaders to not feel like they have to solve this problem. That's not, I think they have to, again, I think they have to be aware that, again, whether people are Black or white or involved in interracial marriage, again, I can't believe, or the other end of this, everyone's got to have some reaction to what's going on in the country. And so I think just being aware of it and maybe being attuned to it and listening, is a start. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say facilitating the conversation with your team at the bare minimum. I understand not wanting to walk this path and it can get a little litigious, but at least facilitating the conversation, allowing a safe space for people to have say their piece, or provide resources to get more information, address it, and then move forward from there. But you can't ignore it, and I think because that speaks volumes in itself, right? Silence is deafening, and so you have to at least address it and allow that space time to happen.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I know that, I don't know if she's still, Elizabeth, I know is still on. Elizabeth, if you can send me any resources that you're aware of, or if anyone else has any, and what I'll do is, Kathy, if you send some, I'll send them out to everyone who's on the meeting, just because I imagine all of us are, wrestling with this. And again, I don't think the playbook is so clear. I don't think
I
so.
will be happy to send you the resources I have. The resources I have are from the perspective of the AMA and research that they've done,
That's great.
including commentary on police brutality and the impact of racism on child and adolescent health. And they suggest certain books,
Great.
topics for reading, and things of that nature. I got it from my niece, who happens to be a doctor, a pediatric doctor, and they actually just did she works at Children's Hospital, National Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C., and they did a big program over there just recently. So
That's great.
I'll share that information. I think it's really good information for anyone to have.
That's great. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Mhm.
Anyone else have a question or something else you want to say on this topic, or the general topic of stress, or are we good for today? Good for today? All right. Matthew, you get a gold star for raising that. I know, again, it was Shauna. I don't know who got the email that we sent out yesterday, but it was Shauna who wrote it. And she's not on the call. Again, she's married to a Black man, and is the reverse of what Komori is dealing with. Anyway, you understand, white woman, Black man, but still dealing with this issue. So anyway, Matthew, I appreciate you raising something that we're all dealing with that I think is causing stress for all of us. Komori, thank you for bringing your voice to this. That was helpful. And thank you all for sticking around and talking about, I think, an important topic. And I was half kidding. I was half kidding when I said this topic might be an interesting session for another coffee session. We may do an impromptu. I gotta talks amongst my team and determine what can we digest and not make anyone more stressful than I typically do on any day. So on that note.
And I would just say I mean, not to belabor, but I think having that conversation is important. And I think it's a brave step to put it out there and say, let's just have it, no hold bar kind of conversation and see what it takes. Sorry, I didn't mean to keep everybody else on longer. But.
No, we're good. I agree. I think it's one of those things that I think every leader, if you're not thinking that your people are thinking about this thing,
right,
you are
right.
crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, again, Komori can attest to this. Komori didn't talk to me about it. I asked her about it. And I said to her, if you don't want to talk about it, that's okay. I'm okay. But I assumed, it seemed incomprehensible to me that she wouldn't be thinking about this and not thinking about it. What impact does it have on myself and my significant other and my son? It seemed inconceivable to me, and I was concerned, and so I brought up. Is that fair, Komori, or is that not your recollection of how that went down?
No, that's totally fair. And some of us are begging to talk about it, but just don't want to talk about it. So it was helpful that Ken even asked at all, because it pushed me to talk about it. Because before he even asked me, like weeks before, I didn't want to talk about it at all because I was just so angry.
Right.
But a couple days into it, I got through it better. And so him asking me and giving me the choice was helpful, but I wanted to talk about it at that point anyway. So yeah.
All good. All right. Thank you all. This was the best coffee session we've had. This was the best. So again, Matthew, you get a gold star, my friend. All right. I'll see Kathy and Matthew and Zabe on another book club meeting, and we'll talk. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks again, Kamori.